Okay, so I'm going to take you through a very quick training process in regards to writing and publishing. So make sure that you have note-taking material because you certainly want to write this down. As someone who has published over 300 works on Amazon, I know a thing or two about publishing in the simplest formats to be able to produce a modest amount of content that's yet impactful in message in what I call mini messenger publications or mini book formats, and being able to serve different industries with a variety of publications. And there are very simplistic ways that you can write and publish your works. And so I want to be able to share some of that with you today. So I'm actually going to have some information below where you can learn more about resources that I have in this area and also special groups that can support you. But what I want to speak with you about today is actually being able to write your publication within an hour, at least get the content for within an hour, and then become published within 24 to 72 hours with the particular content that you come up with. So one of my recommendations in terms of being able to really write a book within an hour or 2 hours, we'll just, stretch it maybe to 2 hours, is to actually be able to get a timer or set a timer, even if it's using a YouTube video timer, and just being present within that hour, set it for an hour or so, be present within that hour. And whatever comes up for you within that hour is what you want to use as your base content. So what I mean by this is that, again, sometimes you could be present for an hour, really nothing comes up, or you just writing down a few things. And what you want to do is at the end of that time period is then take that and allow that to be the base of the content. So some of you might be thinking, well, wait a minute, what if I only came up with a paragraph? Or so then allow that to be the base of the content. And so what that would look like is that that's not going to be a full-fledged book or manual or handbook, so to speak, but what it can be is content for a journal. So whatever you come up with is a premise, a general premise to get started with, and you can fatten it up, you can add to it. But that hour is just for basically the foundation of the work to come forth. And so even within that time, there may be questions that you ask yourself, and then you could possibly produce a Q&A journal. So these are just very simple ways to be able to get started. And so then what you want to do is then take that, maybe that second hour, if you haven't done, like for me, I've been able to do this where if I set the hour, I can get pretty much everything done. But again, I'm kind of seasoned at this, so I can move through the process fairly quickly, where I know the general premise of what I want to work with, and there's the context, but I'll also pull in possibly other elements from other writings, or was it a social media post or something from a blog post? So you can do repurposing, during this time too, to kind of flesh out the content, if it's relevant. And then spend time maybe creating those questions or affirmations or so, like I said, for a journal. So really for this particular training here, we're going to go with just you producing a journal or a Q&A format style publication. So we want to make this easy, all right? So you want to have a general introduction. So for some of you who are bloggers or maybe have written articles, I would recommend that you actually take something that pre-exists, and within that hour or so, start reworking that or seeing how you can take some elements out of that and create something around that. Then create questions or create affirmations or research affirmations that you're able to use that are relevant, obviously, to the context and the premise. And then from there, you have your publication. And you can always come back and publish a larger publication, even around that same context. But to just get started, is to be able to make it easier on yourself and be able to just do something that you can produce fairly quickly that obviously is going to add value, to others. And so within that second hour, what you can do is then set up your account with Kindle Direct Publishing. That's the platform I'm recommending that you do your publishing through. They have where you can set up a free account, and they have a free ISBN, free book cover templates and everything. You don't need a budget or anything. It's a free opportunity, to do this. And so what can happen is that during that time that you've taken the time to set up that free account, and then we're going to talk about also formatting your publication. But before I go back to that, let me just finish where I am with sharing about the Kindle Direct Publishing platform. So, during that second hour would be where you would, after you formatted your publication, you would then upload it into Kindle Direct Publishing and then start working on your book cover. And then you've kind of got that out of the way. So let me sort of backtrack here, just in terms, I want to talk about actually setting up your document. Like I said, I'm going through this fairly quickly because I'm just really giving you some insights. There's nothing prepared here. I'm just kind of sharing with you what's coming up through the guidance of what's going to be relevant for you to actually just get started and produce a publication that can be published within 24 to 72 hours. I say 24 to 72 hours because it really just depends on Kindle Direct Publishing. Typically, they publish within 24 hours. There's a 24-hour turnaround, sometimes even less. But they do sort of have this disclaimer that it could potentially take up to 72 hours. So just being mindful and aware of that. My goal today is really to be able to help you get your publication really done within an hour, but within that day, so to speak, but just using this as a framework so that you can accelerate your process, because it doesn't have to be hard. And as soon as you publish one, then you can move on to publishing a more extensive version at another time. At least this does move something out into the marketplace where you can be adding value and also already starting to make income. Also using the publication to test it as beta to see if it's going to be even a working type of experience that people would like to have more, learn more about that. So, okay, let me come and start talking about the formatting aspect, because again, this is something that can be done within that hour or into the second hour, because you'd have to have this part done before obviously you can upload it into KDP. So what you want to do, if you depend on what the document program that you use, I often recommend people use Apache Open Office. It just formats better for these types of publications. But regardless, even if you're using Word or WordPerfect, the margins of what I'm going to share are all going to be the same. So when you set your publication to the dimensions that you want to use for the size for that publication, I recommend, and this is just me, I recommend publishing a 5x8 mini messenger book. Okay, a 5x8 mini messenger book. But the standard book size typically is a 6x9, and you certainly can do that too and use that. Now, the margin settings are going to be from left to right are 0.375, which converts to 38. And then for the top and bottom is 0.25, so 0.25. So that's going to be how you set your margins as you start to format. And then after you've pretty much transferred your content, like if you're pulling it from a blog post or an article, or just typing it within that particular article or that particular format of the publication for the document, then what you're going to do afterwards is you're going to PDF it. And then, well, let me back up here, because you actually have to get your ISBN from KDP, and of course get your ISBN number and put it in the publication on a copyright page. And then after you've done all of the interior, then that's when you go to upload it. You PDF it and then upload it into KDP. It actually kind of walks you through the process, but I'm just kind of, just sharing this because it kind of just saves you, some time too, just in awareness. And so once you do that, then you submit it through KDP. Like I said, it's typically a 24-hour turnaround, but it could again take up to 72 hours. But my point again in sharing this type of training with you is to get you just going, to get you started, and to see writing and publishing from a very different perspective and not allowing it to be overwhelming. And also understanding that you can write and publish in stages. You can definitely create a series, and the journal may be the first version that you release, and then maybe a standard publication or a workbook or of some sort. So you don't have to just think about, oh, I'm just publishing this one particular book around this particular, aspect, and it's going to take me so long to publish. No, again, you can publish in stages and phases, and just use this process in terms of setting that timer for an hour and working on that base for that amount of time, and then setting that timer for again for the 2 hours to rework everything, and then make sure that you have what you need uploaded into KDP. But you may end up taking the day to get that done, but that's still very accelerated. But I'm just giving you, again, just some tips that you can be able to move in a more accelerated fashion in getting your work out in the world. One of the things for me is that I don't like delays around content and certain aspects that can be adding value to the public already. Don't withhold information. Don't withhold your talents and gifts of service, trying to be perfect, trying to get it just right, trying to have so much content. Honestly, people don't really need a lot of content and to be overly inundated. We live in an era of information overload, and it's really time for people to get into their own information. That's why I publish the way that I do in a lot of journal style formats and mini book formats or mini workbook formats, as well, is so that people can be able to pull out their own information and not be so much inundated by even just, my philosophies or theories or experiences. They need to have just the space for these triggers for them to bring out their own, their own information. There's a time and place for everything, for every different type of publication, whether it's a how-to, whether there are tips or affirmations or just a journal, in general, or some type of curriculum. There's different different things call for different things. But my thing is that you can produce in all these different stages. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be all or a few. But just don't delay in putting out something that people can be benefiting right now. And really you can be benefiting as well. So I just wanted to just, share this. So one of the things that I want to sort of in conclusion is that after you publish and you're up on Amazon, then there's the opportunity for you to start being able to market and put your publication, like I said, out there and monetize it, but also to receive feedback of whether you need to continue, in this direction. So there's just so much around this, but you really have to get into the zone, into the game of doing this, and with no delays. And then this can lead also to you being able to get booked for speaking, consulting opportunities. It just can open up the door just for so much. And you want to really move the energy in that way. You want to be able to create the momentum for other opportunities and possibilities to come forth by way of you doing this. And like I said, I'll have information below and resources and just other ways that you can be supported within this initiative. I do have a group in terms of being able to publish within an hour to 2 hours. and being able to take that self-publishing challenge in a sense. So I'll have information below as it relates to that. So I want you to take this information and definitely apply it, implement it quickly, do not delay. Most of the time, if you don't act on something within 24 hours, it kind of just gets put on that someday list, and someday is just not on the calendar. So you want to be able to start moving and creating momentum in this accelerated way. And I've definitely laid it out in a way that it's very simplified for you, to get started. But again, like I said, there'll be information below that you can be further supported, with this initiative. So I hope that this was beneficial for you. Definitely once you get published, please drop your Amazon link below in the comments so that it's there as an evergreen way of marketing and a way for me to be able to support you in terms of the exposure for your publication and generating you some sales, as well. So thank you for taking the time out to listen to this training. And again, I hope it's going to be beneficial. And I look forward to bringing more trainings of this nature for you in the future.